Does live well? Keep your virgin. Not really about actually in the you good day of visitation. So what do we do when we're discouraged and we're suffering, whatever you may be going through? Well, you live holy lives, and therefore, who's glorified? God is. And that is the answer to what he's going to talk about pretty much through this whole book. Chapter 3, verse 8 and 9, he says, to sum up, let all be harmonious, sympathetic, brotherly, kind-hearted, and humble in spirit, not returning evil for evil, a blessing instead, for you were called for me for that very purpose, that you might inherit a blessing. Not insult for insult. Whatever somebody may say to you, whatever you may be going through, have your mind set positive and live in such a way that people, even through your suffering, can recognize something's different about you. And that is Jesus Christ. So let's talk about the author a little bit of this. He obviously, in verse this, his name is Cephas, which is Aramaic. Let's look at John 1 when he's first called, just to see. Chapter 1, starting in verse 40, this is when John had been talking about the Messiah and sees him and calls him the Lamb of God in verse 36. Then in verse 40, he says, one of the two who heard John speak and followed him was Andrew, Simon Peter's brother. He found first his own brother Simon, that's our Peter, and said to him, we have found the Messiah, which translated means Christ. He brought him to Jesus. Jesus looked at him and said, you are Simon, son of John. You shall be called Cephas. So you have all those names in there that he's referred to. Son of John, Cephas, Peter, on and on we'll go about Peter and the names that are given to him. When you think of Peter, I don't know what you think about, but Peter is, to me, one of those apostles that I can most relate to. I've got down here, and I'll just read it to you. His name occurs more in the gospel accounts than any other of the apostles. God's word, his wavering faith, trusting faith. And we see that in Matthew 16:16, when Christ says, who do you say that I am? You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. From an apostle or